Hi kids, today is June 11th, Thursday. I just got back home from Norway. It was a pretty good week, exhausting but fruitful and satisfying. Today I'd like to talk about handling life, or maybe more accurately, handling whatever life brings or throws our way. Life constantly presents us with situations. You might call them challenges, you might call them opportunities. But here's something interesting. Most of them are neither. Most events are neutral. They aren't inherently good or bad. It's our response to them that gives them meaning. I'd like to share a story that illustrates this beautifully. It's from one of Alan Watts's books, The Way of Zen. By the way, Alan Watts is someone I'd really like you to read or listen to one day. He was a philosopher, writer, and public speaker who became famous for explaining Zen Buddhism, Taoism, and Hinduism in a way that was accessible, humorous, and deeply human. I often think of him as a translator of Eastern wisdom for the modern Western world. Now, the story goes something like this. A group of Zen monks visit a traditional tea house where geishas are serving tea, food, and entertaining the guests. One of the monks notices a particularly graceful geisha, the way she moves, the way she speaks, the calmness with which she carries herself. He quietly thinks to himself, "She is very Zen." And he becomes curious, not out of arrogance, not to embarrass her, simply to see how deeply rooted that calmness really is. So he takes a pair of tongs, picks up a glowing piece of charcoal from the brazier and says to her, "I have a gift for you." The geisha immediately realizes that this isn't an ordinary gift. In her culture, refusing a gift would have been impolite. But accepting a burning piece of charcoal with her bare hands wasn't exactly an option either. She pauses for a brief moment. Then she gently wraps the long sleeves of her kimono around her hands, gracefully accepts the charcoal, carries it calmly into the kitchen, and extinguishes it in a bowl of water. Her hands remain unharmed. Her beautiful kimono, however, is ruined. You can imagine she wasn't particularly happy about that. Yet she returns without anger, bows respectfully to the monk and says, "I'd like to give you a gift as well." The monk smiles. "I would be honored." She picks up another glowing piece of charcoal with a pair of chopsticks and offers it to him. The monk reaches into his robe, takes out a cigarette, leans forward, lights it from the burning charcoal, looks at her, smiles and says, "Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted." I love this story because it captures something profound about the Zen way of seeing the world. The geisha's response was already admirable. She didn't panic. She didn't complain. She adapted to reality. She sacrificed an expensive kimono to preserve both her composure and the relationship. That's presence. That's creativity. That's grace under pressure. But then she unknowingly presents the monk with the very same challenge. And his response reveals another layer of understanding. He doesn't think, "How do I solve this problem?" He simply sees the charcoal for what it is. In that moment, it isn't a burden. It's simply fire. And since he happens to want a cigarette, the charcoal becomes exactly what it already is. A source of fire, nothing more, nothing less. Life isn't always that simple, of course. Our challenges are rarely as obvious as a burning piece of charcoal. But I think there's an important lesson here. Whenever something happens, try not to immediately label it as good or bad. Instead, ask yourselves, what is this situation asking of me? Look at it from different angles. Don't become trapped by your assumptions or your expectations of how life should be. Meet reality as it is, not as you wish it were. Because wisdom isn't primarily about having the right ideas. It's about responding appropriately to reality. Here, now, in this very moment, understanding what this moment requires and acting accordingly, that's wisdom. And interestingly, that's where Zen and Stoicism overlap beautifully. Both encourage us to see reality clearly before reacting to it. Both ask us to stay present, to focus on what is actually happening instead of becoming prisoners of our own thoughts. So if there's one thing I'd like you to take away from today's conversation, it's this. Be thoughtful, be intelligent, but don't overcomplicate life. Don't become trapped by unnecessary rules, whether they come from other people or from yourselves. Don't let your ideas about reality prevent you from seeing reality itself. Be present. Respond to what is actually in front of you. When you're hungry, eat. When you're tired, sleep. When it's time to act, act. Anyway, that's enough philosophy for today. And don't ever forget, I love you both very, very much.